Flight is one of the first goals most people set out for in all the mods 10. But there are countless different flight options, so it can be hard to choose which option is worth going for. I've ranked every single flight option and put it into a tier list based on the following 3 criteria: the usability of it, how early you can get it, and a bonus category of how fun and unique it is. There's even a flight option that you can get within literally a minute, albeit slightly limited. Don't believe me? Well, stick around to the end of the video and I'll do a speedrun to prove it. We're going to go from A to Z of the mod name just to keep this fair, and I'll compile the full tier list at the end. A lot of mods seem to add like an Elytra compatibility to their armor or an Elytra upgrade, which is great, but since most of them rely on the Elytra anyway, I thought I wouldn't include it and I'd kind of just group them all together under an Elytra flight. In no way is this a diss to any of your favourite mods, it's just in terms of progression, where would I rank it if it was my only option of flight? So the first item we've got on this list is the Quantum Armor from Advanced AE. Oh my god, this is the coolest armor in the game. Look at it, it's got blades for hands. This armor looks so incredible. We're not here for the armor, we're here for the flight. And so how does it hold up? Well, the recipe for the chest plate, which is what you need for flying, is incredibly difficult to craft. The unobtainium chest plate is just required for this craft, which is already late game. Let alone you need the flight card itself, which requires again this quantum alloy, which is nether stars, netherite, and an elytra already. So in terms of early game, this one has tanked it. But something you might not be aware of is the usability of this armor is actually quite cool. You first open the armor and select the chest plate and whack the flight card in. From here you can either toggle it on or off, and you have a setting to control the speed of your vertical velocity. Number 1 is just regular creative flight, but number 10, well, that's when things get funky. You can see that you can fly incredibly quickly vertically. Unfortunately, this doesn't hold up horizontally, which is a little bit irritating, but the fact that you can go so high so quick is pretty crazy. Secondly, you can also get this flight drift card, and that's applied to your boots. The interesting part with that is it stops all of your momentum when flying. I'll give you a quick demo of that. So if I stop flying and then I suddenly stop, it will now, as you can see, it kind of jolts. It removes all of that momentum that you get. It's quite hard to get used to, but when it comes to actually building, it can be really useful. The problem is I'm so used to creative flight that this just feels so odd. All in all, the Advanced AE Quantum Armor gets a D tier. It's such an incredible armor. It's just not feasible for the early, mid, or even like early late game. But if you're at that late game stage, the bonus vertical flight speed and the flight drift options make this a pretty unique option. Next on the list is Apotheosis. Apotheosis adds 2 different ways of getting creative flight. The first way, and the most important way that everyone in their Let's Plays always shows you, is the Potion of Flying. Now, I've got the incredibly extended version here, the one that lasts 30 minutes. But the recipe is actually surprisingly cheap. To make the 30-minute one, you need the 15-minute one with a bit of redstone. To make the 15, you need the 8-minute one. And to make the basic 8-minute potion, what you need is a potion of levitation and a popped chorus fruit. Now, hold on. I know what you're thinking. Popped chorus fruit, that takes this out of the early game. But if you've watched my previous video on the early game time wand, you know that we can get chorus fruit actually pretty easy before we've even been to the end. So the other materials you need is obviously this potion of levitation. That's just a slow falling potion with a fermented spider eye, and that comes from phantom membrane. So a pretty involved recipe, but for creative flight, I think it's definitely worth it. In tandem, you can also use the infusion pylon, which tends to be everyone's most favorite way of flying. The infusion pylon allows you to have potion effects anywhere in the world, and all you need to do is craft the pylon, which is pretty simple, then a potion filter requiring cactus dye, glass, emerald, and cyan terracotta. You then need an hour of the potion that you want, so in this case we only need 2 of those potions, but we'll have the third because sometimes there's a little bit of a glitch where you'll lose a second. The recommended way of doing this is by having the potion filter in your left hand and having the potion of flying in your right hand. You hold right click and then just keep it down, and you'll see it absorbs that flying straight into the potion filter. So right now we've already got half of the hour needed, so we'll add the other one in as well. And that time it worked perfectly. Considering that a brewing stand can have 3 of the potions anyway, I definitely recommend brewing this last one just in case this doesn't work on the second potion. And then all I need to do is put it into my infusion pylon, and I have creative flight. And also apparently I have no head. Fantastic. Anyway, there we go. Now we've got creative flight. And this is just the regular creative flight, so no additional usability. It's just creative flight. It's not particularly unique. It's got no added benefits, but because it's so early game, I have to put this in S tier. Everyone uses it. It's the most used way of flying. Apotheosis also has another flight option, as if one wasn't enough. You get different tiers of loot occasionally from mob drops, going all the way from uncommon to common, to rare, epic, epic, and then mythic. And you'll get these depending on your world tier, and you can find that out by pressing Ctrl and T, and you can do the following steps to level up your world tier. Pressing on the detailed info shows you the current tier, and you can see the drop chances of these different items. So right now I'm at the max, and most of the drops will be in that epic, and some will be in that mythic range. As far as I can see, the epic versions tend to have elytra flight on them, and the mythic ones can even have an upgraded version of that where you get creative flight. So if you've got a mob farm and you've been binning off those armor drops, I'd recommend you check again, because I think some of the chest plates you have might actually give you creative flight. You can also get this by using the reforging table from Apotheosis, but I think that's a little bit too much for this video. That specific method, I'm going to have to put in C tier. Plus, when you've got the creative flight from the potion, you might as well just do that one instead. It's the same mod. But without further ado, the next mod is Ars Nouveau. And again, it seems to be a theme. There's two types of flight you can get. One is the creative flight, and then the other one is a bit more of a unique one. And a little bit of a spoiler, one of these is S tier. I'll start with the unique one first. This is the Glyph of Leap. And to make it, you'll see the recipe requires Wilden Wings and the Air Essence. Air Essence requires really simple stuff, a feather, arrow, and Wilden Wing, and it doesn't use them up in this recipe. But you might be thinking, how do we get the Wilden Wings? You can find them in Wilden Dens, or the more likely way of finding them is by using the Tablet of Summon Wilden. This tablet has two recipes. The first one is probably what you'll end up using to craft this, but once you've summoned a few Wilden, you'll have the drops to then summon more. Or if you have a Drigme farm, like I showed in the tips and tricks video, you'd only need to do this once. The way you do this is by making a ritual brazier, placing it down, right-clicking with the Tablet of Summon Wilden, and then right-click with an empty hand to activate it. This will then summon in all the mobs that are related to the Wildens. So this one here is the one we're after, the Wilden Stalker. By killing this, it will drop its Wilden Wing. You'll also get other types of Wilden here, so here's a Defender. None of the Wilden mobs are particularly tricky to fight. This one here, the Wilden Hunter, will summon in extra hunting wolf things, and that can be a little bit tricky. But the Wilden Stalkers, they're really simple. Again, I'm using a creative sword, so don't ignore what I'm doing now. But since we do get all of these different drops, creating another tablet of Wilden from these unused drops can also be really valuable. From here, craft a scribe's table, right-click it with the book, and type in the leap spell. Once you've selected it, press select, and throw the corresponding items in. So in this case, it was the 3 Wilden Wings and the Air Essence. It will then write up this Glyph of Leap. Once you've collected it, right-click it, and you will have unlocked Leap in your spellbook. So go back into your spellbook and craft this new spell. And it's just a really simple one. It's just Self-Leap. And you can give it a name, press create. So when you've got the book in your hand, you'll see in the bottom left, you've got your mana bar, and you can just right-click Leap like this. And it will use quite a substantial bit of mana, so do be warned. You can upgrade your mana with either some of the enchantments or some of the Ars Nouveau armor. In this case, you can see I've given myself some of the Sorcerer's armor, and it's decreased the mana usage by a considerable amount. Towards the end game, you'll probably have enough mana so that this won't actually matter much, but in the early game, it will. And the Leap spell is not exactly creative flight, but if you want to fly around like this, it's pretty reasonable. One thing to note is that you will still take fall damage. The way you can counteract it is by doing the most unintuitive thing I've ever seen. So if you're used to elytra flying, this is probably going to be a bit strange, but you can literally break your fall by using Leap anywhere. So you can even do it facing straight down. So for example, like that. Obviously, the more optimal way is probably just pointing slightly not towards down. For example, just simply doing this. But there's going to be some other methods that I show. There you go, we got down without taking any damage. But there will be some other methods that I show that have their own sort of preventing fall damage, such as Mekanism or Oritech. Now, I would actually put this in the A tier. It's not exactly S tier because you can still run out of mana and it's not full creative flight. But the main reason it's in A tier is because you can get it so early game. You can get it before you've even gone to the Nether. And if I'm honest, I always want this before I go to the Nether. I've completed a lot of the All the Mods packs, and this has always been my go-to early game flight option. And the one that you're probably waiting for is the one that I talked about, which was the S tier one. The Tablet of Flight has a really simple recipe. There's actually two, one that involves a feather and one that involves an ender pearl and a few more Wilden Wings. And the main cost for this one will actually be at the expense of source. So again, similar to last time, all you need to do is right click with the Tablet of Flight and right click with an empty hand, and that will activate the Tablet of Flight. You also need to give this source. So I'm going to put a full source jar to the side of it. And once you jump, you will be given flight. And you get it for a minute, and it will always top up from this source jar. Now, I left this running for 5 minutes, and it only took up 22% of this jar, meaning that you don't really need a great source farm to keep this running. But if you're looking for an early game source farm, there's one that I recommend using Snad. I showed it off in my tips and tricks video, so if you want to have a look, it's in there. but that will be more than enough to top up the flight mechanics. So I would say that the Tablet of Flight gets an S tier rating. It's very little requirements and gives you full creative flight in a pretty decent range. The drawback is obviously the range, but if you need this for your base or around, it's not that big of a deal. I've got an incredibly weird one up next. This flight method requires honey bottles and saddles, and you've probably never heard of it before. We're going to go to the Bumblezone, so before we go, make sure you pack some honey bottles. Other food options are available as well, such as bee bread or even royal jelly, but you need to make your way over to the Bumblezone. Now, walking around the Bumblezone, you'll occasionally find these roaming around. These are Beehemoths, and they're huge. In fact, these ones did naturally spawn in, but they tend to spawn more naturally around some structures. You shouldn't have too much of a difficulty finding them. These guys are pretty cool. You just need to go up to them and right-click them with the honey bottle until they become friends with you. And you can see here, we've got a friendship 6 out of 1,000. And then you can right-click it with a saddle and then ride the bee. And we are now riding this Beehemoth. He is incredibly slow, but the more honey bottles that we give them, the faster they actually get. You also gain friendship by riding them as well, so you can just sit on the back of them. But right-clicking them with a honey bottle will increase their friendship a lot. The more honey you feed them, the quicker they go. So you can see here, we've got up to about, 150. Let's see how fast this guy is now. So yeah, that's a lot faster than we were before, and you can get that up to 1,000. Now, if you let him be, unintended, he will lose his friendship over time. But you can regain it back pretty quickly by just right-clicking him again with a honey bottle. There, it got down to 153. But that's fine, we just right-clicking him again. You can also bring it over to the overworld, and there's 2 methods of doing that. One is by using some sort of mob imprisonment tool. So for example, we've got the creature catcher from Just Dire Things. You can capture him, bring him over to the overworld, and then drop him off. Or you can dig up to the top of your world or the bottom of your world and just walk out. So I've built a hole all the way down to y equals 0, and once we get to the bottom, we will go back to the overworld with our newfound friend, the bee. Now you might be wondering, what happens when we get to friendship 1,000? Well, as soon as you get to friendship 1,000, it will turn into a queen Beehemoth. I'm referring to it as a he. It's a queen. And this queen is at the highest speed going, and by the looks of it, I don't think it lowers its friendship level. So you can just keep riding this forever. And it's actually quite fast. I mean, you can get some good distance. I did tell you there'd be some fun and unique ones in here. And similar to a horse in Minecraft, you can just grab your Beehemoth with a lead and pop it down on a fence, and it will stay there. This feels a bit unethical, but when you think about it, we're doing this with horses anyway. Like, is this okay? Please don't hate me for this, but I'm going to have to put it in the B tier. Pun slightly intended. I really do think in early game this is actually quite a viable option. The Bumblezone can be accessed really quickly by just getting a piston and a lever, and the flight itself is not too bad over a long distance. So where it lacks in the usability department, it definitely adds up in the fun and unique factor. Next up, we've got a quick one. It's EnderIO. It's a bit of a tricky one because there aren't actually any flight options in EnderIO right now. There is this Staff of Levity right here, but it's not seeming to work on my version. But the intended use of it is that you shift right click and then you'll get like a potion of levitation. For some reason that's just not working today. I'm not entirely sure why. It was working a couple of days ago and I'm doing the exact same thing, so I don't know what I've done. The recipe requires 2 infinity rods, which don't seem too difficult to make, and this crystal, which is a vibrant crystal, and a shulker soul vial. So you'll need to have got a shulker at this point. I know I keep referencing it, but the tips and tricks video has a way of getting shulkers before you even touch the end. So this is not too difficult to get. But in terms of flight, it's literally just levitation. I don't really want to class this as flight, so I think that's going to have to be a D tier. Next up, we've got the Staff of Travelling. Again, it's not really flight, but if we've got Leap and the Blazejet wand, I guess I kind of have to include this, because it has the exact same mechanic, where if you shift right-click in the air, you do a teleportation in that direction. So it's not really flight, it's more like blinking. The recipe requires dark steel and then an ender crystal, which is made by getting a soul vial filled with an enderman. Not tricky at all, and you'll be getting this in the mid-game. This staff is really useful if you've got things like travel anchors, but I'm not really going to show that off because it's not flight. I'm having a tough time kind of putting this anywhere, so I think I'll have to put it in C tier because it's really not flight, but definitely worth a mention despite the fact that it's not really flying. So that's EnderIO. Nothing much can really be said about those two options, unfortunately. Sticking to the weird, unique ways of flying, the next one we have is the EvilCraft Broom. It's a bit of a strange one because really this is kind of like a tinker's tool where you can swap out different parts and upgrade them with modifiers. So I'll show you how to make the basic ones, but if you're interested in this method of transport, I would recommend that you have a look at the wiki to find the optimal setup for a broom. Now, if you've been dungeon crawling, you might have come across some of the chests containing brooms. This is one alternative way to get it, and they tend to have random attributes associated with them. You don't technically have to even have started EvilCraft to get these as a drop, but oftentimes these can give you a head start on some of the materials that you haven't yet found. Now, I'm going to show you how to make the basic version of the broom and what you can do to upgrade it. If you search on JEI for broom, you're only going to find this version and there's no recipe available. If you type in JEI, bear rod, and this will have all 3 of the recipes. To make a broom, you need to have the rod, the cap, and the brush. So for now, we'll just craft the basic versions of each. There's a material list online, but you can see it's already prompting us in JEI of the different types we can actually make. So for example, I can make an emerald gem cap. And this provides more maneuverability and a couple of modifiers on top of my broom. One really nice one is this purpur, and you can see here it gives us 5 modifiers. And you can kind of mix and match these different versions, but by combining all 3 of these together, you will get a broom. You can hold shift and see more information about the broom that you've just crafted. And if you're not happy with one of the parts, you can just swap it out by putting it next to a new one in the crafting table. One of the easiest ways to fill up the broom is by having a dark tank from EvilCraft, fill it with blood and right click it, and that will fill up the broom. From here, you just hold it in your hand, right click, and you will now be riding this broom. It's not creative flight, but it moves based on your mouse movement, and hold W to move. It's probably easier to do in third person. And you might be thinking, this is kind of slow. I don't know why I showed this as a possible method. But this is where modifiers come in. Again, really similar to Tinker's, you can now craft your broom with some modifiers. So for here, I have some redstone, which will actually increase the speed. You check the difference out here, you can see speed 0, and this is now speed 72 by using one of my modifiers. The best ones that I'd advise you check out is the redstone, which will do the speed, the coal, which will do the acceleration, and glowstone will increase the maneuverability. I've got a broom here where I added 3 modifiers, 1 speed, 1 acceleration, and 1 maneuverability, and you can see this is so much faster and can move around significantly easier. I can go up, I can go down, and it accelerates at a great speed. So don't be fooled, despite the fact that it's not creative flight, it is again really useful and really accessible early game. Plus it fills that niche of being unique and fun. So I'm going to have to put the EvilCraft broom in A tier. Now next on the list is the Ice and Fire Dragons. Now pre-warning, this is not worth it. To get access to the dragons in all the mods, you have to have come to the Other. That requires you to have used a teleport pad in the Nether, and teleport pads require all the modium. But I thought, hey, we have to include it because we're doing every single flight option. So I'll do this one pretty fast. You have to find a dragon. They're quite abundant in the Other, but if you want to find some of the bigger ones, you'll have to go cave diving. And once you've killed one, you can craft the Dragon Seeker, and that will show you the nearest dragon within 150 blocks. In this case, we've got a massive dragon right in front of us. They're very difficult to kill, but obviously I've got the Quantum Sword, so he stands no chance at all. By right-clicking the dragon, you will scrape all of its resources off it. Bit morbid. And occasionally, you can find an egg. Maybe not this time. I'd sincerely like to apologise for the amount of dragons I've unalived in this episode. I've managed to kill 7, and we finally got the egg drop. Depending on the dragon, you'll have to hatch the egg in a different way. In our case, we got a flame dragon, so the way that you hatch the egg is on fire. So we'll just light some netherrack here and pop the egg over the top. And if the egg is spinning, that means that the dragon is hatching. So we got our dragon in the end. I think it took about 10 minutes for it to hatch. And you'll see it's a stage 1 dragon. We need to use dragon meal, which is just any kind of meat and bones, on this dragon, and it will grow it up. But they get big very quickly. So once you're at stage 2, you feed it up, and then you get to stage 3. And stage 3 is the stage... Oh my god. And stage 3 is the stage where you can actually now ride your dragon and fly. All you do is get on the back of it. He's ran off. Brilliant. I didn't say this was a good flying method. So once he's landed, you can right-click him and you'll ride him and hold space for a few seconds, and then you'll be flying away. The flight speed is really good, but the controls are a little bit janky. It's space to ascend, and I believe the default key binding is X to descend. But there we go. What a unique way of flying. It's just such a shame that you get access to this at such a late stage. And for that, unfortunately, this has got to go in D tier. I think he heard, he's walking away. Next on the list, we've got immersive engineering. Quite a simple one. It's just a collapsible glider. Really simple recipe. Again, it's aluminium rods. That's the correct way of saying it. Leather chest plate, and then tough fabric. This is made by the industrial hemp fiber. You get the industrial hemp seeds from just breaking short grass, and then you can grow it into industrial hemp. And the glider is really simple. It is just similar to Elytra flying. You right click it, and you're wearing it on your back. But when you fly, it's just the exact same as Elytra's. The only main difference is that there is a speed limit. You'll see if you start going a little bit too quickly, you'll see there, the speed is too fast and will damage the glider. So you'll see there's some durability loss on the glider there. So it's not a complete replacement for the Elytra, but for early game, it is massive. Usability is alright because it's not exactly creative flight. It's not particularly unique, but it's very early game. And for that reason, it's going to go in the B tier. Next up, we have Iron Spells. There are quite a few teleportation spells, but I think the main thing to show off is the Angel Wings spell. Again, it's the exact same as Elytra flying, and all you'll need for this is the Spell Forge and the Inscription instruction table and a spell book. I'm going to use the Blaze instruction manual, but there's tons of other spell books available. It doesn't particularly matter. And what you'll need to craft this is some legendary ink. Now, legendary ink can be found from 2 sources. Most of the Iron Spells mobs can actually drop different tiers of the ink, and inside this cauldron you can put a lesser tier ink. For example, here's the epic ink, and add an amethyst to it to make a small portion of legendary ink. On top of that, in your mob farm you'll probably have a ton of these scrolls, and if you have a legendary one, you can just dip it in with a 50% chance of getting 250 millibuckets of legendary ink. And then, however you got the ink in the first place in this cauldron, you can just then use a glass bottle and you will receive a legendary ink back. And the spell we're going for is a holy spell, so that requires this divine pearl, amethyst and gold. And if you pop your legendary ink with paper and a divine pearl, you can craft the angel wings. You can also craft this with the epic rarity. The main reason I've suggested legendary is because it's a 2-minute effect length with a 2-minute cooldown. So by the time that you finish using the spell, you can then use it again, which kind of equates to infinite flight. And then you just apply it to the spell book you want by going to an inscription table, popping your book in there, popping the spell in there and adding it. Take your book out and then you can equip it by just right-clicking or adding it to the curio slot. Another thing to note is it does require 120 mana for the cost of this, which isn't a lot. I've added the priest helmet to me and that has already covered almost double that. And then once you're ready and you've got enough mana, just press the V key. I will note that I think it clashes with a few different things, so you might have to reset this keybind. But once you've pressed it, you'll now have the angel wings. You can fly up to a different surface. And if you just fly like an elytra, you'll see it just works. Do note that it's still an elytra, so if you hit your head, you will still take damage. It's not particularly cheap, but it's just as usable as an elytra, and you can still get it pretty early game. Ink is not hard to come by, and the Divine Pearl is really cheap. So as long as you've got some armor that gives you some mana, you should be fine. Honestly, I think this is A tier. Next up, we have iron jetpacks. A bit of a staple of modded Minecraft. There are tons of options, and you use the previous option to make the next tier up, meaning that you start with the really simple wood one, and can then work your way all the way up to the unobtainium jetpack. Now, on its own, I don't really know what to give this because it can easily be one of the first ones that you craft. And since it's upgradable, it kind of stays with you for a long period of time. So you'll see, as an example, here's how you craft the wood one. We need 44 iron, 32 redstone, and this is usually the base material. So in this case, it's wood, so it's 28. However, if I wanted to craft the stone one, it would require the previous one, and again, 44 iron, 32 redstone, and then 28 of the same material. When you get to the late game, the iron's not necessarily needed. As you can see, you then start crafting these advanced coils. And I'm going to be honest, I was tempted to put this in A tier, but I realised we're playing all the mods, so this means that it can combine with other mods. But normally, with these bad jetpacks, for example, the wood one, it only holds 20,000 FE. Do you want to see how long 20k FE really lasts? There we go, we're already on 19k, we're on 18k, we're on 17k. As you can see, we've made pretty hefty dent in it. However, I think we can pull this into the S tier because of some of the interactions it has with other mods. But with the help of Flux Networks, and I'm going to be honest, it is a little bit expensive. For example, the controller does require these flux cores, which requires obsidian and eye vendors. But you can plug a flux plug into your energy providers, have a basic storage here, and your controller, and you can go into the controller, click on wireless charging, and set up your armor, your curio slots, and enable it. And what you'll find, if you look in the left-hand side of my screen, I will then start charging, and I said it. Ah, there we go. Right, okay. Took a bit of time, but it's now updated. And now what that enables me to do is fly infinitely so long as my energy production doesn't run out. You can also use the player transmitter from Power. The recipe is nowhere near as expensive as the Flux Networks one, and that will also do the same job. You can also use a binding card which makes this work cross-dimensionally the same as the Flux Networks. So that's where I'm a little bit confused. I'm going to put it in S tier because of the interactions with other mods. These jetpacks also have a sprint modifier, a hover mode, and allow you to go pretty quickly. So for example, I've got the unobtainium jetpack here, and if I enable the engine and start flying, you'll see I go super, super quick. I can cover large distances really quickly. And also, using the hover mode, you're able to hover mid-air as if you've got creative flight. For example, if I'm this high now and I don't want to necessarily go down, I can press H. Oh, of course, my keybind is different, but yet you'll see there I've now got basically creative flight. Next up is Just Dire Things. It's a new mod to 1.21, and it's got 2 options, one early game and one late game. The first option is the Blazejet wand, not a particularly difficult craft. You get ferrocore from smelting up raw ferrocore, which is basically just putting an iron block next to some of the Just Dire Things goo, and you can use the basic tier one here, the Primogel goo. You can get that in your first day. The other requirement is the Blaze Gold ingot. That one will take a bit more time. Again, it's the raw Blaze Gold, which comes from gold, and it can only be found from these tiers onwards, not the Primogel, so you'll have to have the Blaze Bloom block. You'll need access to the nether to get the Blaze Powder and the nether wart for this recipe. This wand is the exact same as the Ars Leap spell, meaning that you just have to right click and you'll boost in that direction. The best part about it is by holding this in your hand or offhand, you don't take any fall damage. So if I boost up to the sky, and then come back down. As long as I'm holding it in this hand, or if I'm holding it in my offhand, I will take no fall damage. You can also repair it by throwing it into lava with a cool animation. And that then fully repairs the tool. Later game, you can also upgrade the wand to a Void Shift wand, which does the exact same thing but now uses power instead. You can also tweak the airburst amount with this version, so you can go a little bit further. Both of these definitely make the S tier. This is one of the earliest options you can get. You will have to get to the nether, but in terms of negating all fall damage from just one item, it's fantastic. The second option we have from Just Dire Things is the flight upgrade. This provides creative flight with phantom membranes, feathers, and end crystals, but it can only be applied to the Eclipse alloy chestplate. An Eclipse alloy comes from, you guessed it, netherite, which is very expensive. You also have to use Shadow Pulse Goo, so you're going to be having to go to the ancient cities anyway, so it's very late game. But all you need to do is go to a smithing table, put the upgrade on there, make sure it's powered. I've got the player transmitter working in the background, equip it, and then you have creative flight. This item is C tier. You can get this earlier than the mech and the quantum armor, but it is still late game, so consider that in your next playthrough. Up next, we've got Mekanism. Mekanism adds some of my favorite looking armor for this. Like, check this out. It looks really techy. Even from the front, it looks cool. The first thing I'll show is the Mekanism Jetpack. It's not a particularly difficult craft. You do need to get into steel, and you need osmium, which means you've had to add a diamond pickaxe to mine it. And it doesn't require energy. It actually requires hydrogen. The way you get hydrogen in the Mekanism mod is through the electrolytic separator. It requires you to go a little bit into the Mekanism mod, but it's not a particularly hard recipe. And all you do is give it power, whack down some sort of infinite supply of water, pop a pipe down, and then pipe the water into the separator. It will then produce oxygen and hydrogen. We can put our jetpack in there and it will suck up the hydrogen, and now it's going up. Now if the oxygen reaches the top, this whole process will stop. So what we need to do is make sure this is on dumping excess. So when it gets to the top, it won't stop, it will still produce hydrogen. And then the second part of this is the free runners. Again, not a very difficult recipe at all, but these ones require energy as normal. The free runners are cool because it allows you to get automatic step assist. It will also suck up any kind of fall damage you take, and it will take some energy out of these in order to process that. So it comes in really handy if you're using a jetpack. Now that we've got a little bit of hydrogen stored in our jetpack, we can now equip it, and we have the same flight as the jetpacks before. You're also able to change the mode with G, which means, you know, we've got now hover. So like the previous jetpacks I showed off, we've now got hover. So the keybind is G, but it's also messing with my camera control. So now, as you can see, I'm now like tilted sideways. I can assure you this will not happen for you. This is just my weird setup that I've got. Mekanism's jetpack is definitely an A tier, especially when combined with the free runners. I'll also show off the MekSuit from Mekanism. It is a super cool armor set, which does allow you to get creative flight using the gravitational modulating unit. This is not a very easy craft, requiring an unobtainium block and 2 of the jetpack units and a nether star and some of these ultimate induction providers. This is a crazy recipe. Despite how cool this is, and you know, you probably will be using the MekSuit, this has to be in D tier. There's no way this is going to be your first choice when it comes to creative flight. Next up, we've got Mystical Agriculture. Mystical Agriculture provides the flight augment for your tier 5 armor, which needs nether stars and supremium essence. You also need the supremium chestplate, the only tier 5 armor, other than the actual awakened supremium stuff, which is even later game. You need a tinkering table, you put the chestplate in with the flight augment, and then just equip the chestplate and you've got creative flight. The same usability, there's no speed augments that I can see for this. You'd probably get this before late game, so I would have to give this one a C tier. In most playthroughs you'd get this before you'd have the MekSuit. The next one is the Modern Industrialization mod. It's a very Marmite mod, you either love it or you hate it. The first half is the Diesel Jetpack. It has a crazy recipe. With Modern Industrialization, there's a lot of micro crafting going on, so you need components to craft other components. There's a lot of layers to this recipe here. So sure, if you want a challenge, this is good, but for me, it's not early game. The usability is just the same as the other jetpacks. And for me, I don't find Modern Industrialization fun, so the fun factor is completely gone for this. It also requires diesel, which, you know, it's a non-renewable resource, guys. We're trying to save the planet. Unfortunately, the diesel jetpack goes in D tier. There's also the quantum armor, or more importantly, the quantum chestplate, which requires the quantum upgrade, which requires a whole lot of stuff. My tier list only goes down to D tier, so this one's going to just have to stick there. Oritech is a relatively new addition to the ATM 10 pack, and I don't think people are aware that it actually provides a really nice early game jetpack solution. The only difficult resource required for this is steel. Everything else is pretty easy to come by, apart from maybe blaze powder, but you can do this with the advanced battery. You can also fuel this with turbo fuel, which will provide a bigger speed bonus. And very similar to the Mekanism one, you're gonna want these exo boots that come with it. The exo boots require silicon and then one of your reinforced plating. The plating is really easy to craft, only requiring steel and then either copper or iron. I think most of them can be used here. And silicon you can get from smelting up quartz, or if you've got a crusher, you can crush sand. Wearing these prevents all fall damage. This could even be a better solution than the free runners for Mekanism. But when I say these are vital, I really do mean it. There's currently a bug in Oritech, and I'll show you it really quickly. Normally with flight mechanics, if you fly up a little bit and then you drop, you'll take that according damage. And if you break your fall a little bit by boosting, you might prevent a bit of damage. Problem is with Oritech, I don't think they figured that out. I'm going to fly from really high up and just try and break my fall a little bit by applying the thruster, and yeah, I died. Yeah, so those exo boots are a definite must if you're going to fly with the Oritech backpack. I do actually think it's a little bit easier than the Mekanism jetpack, because it doesn't require hydrogen and requires just energy. And again, you can hook this up with the same player transmitter as we had before, it just works. So I would say the Oritech backpack gets an S tier. I think Pneumaticraft offers the most unique method I've ever seen, and maybe one of the coolest looking? But first, I have to show one of the more goofy things, the Vortex cannon. It's not a particularly hard recipe, it does require some of the compressed iron, and it's mostly used to kind of cut grass. As you can see, it cuts grass like this. Depending on the angle, you can kind of use it similarly to the Ars Nouveau leap spell, but it's so inconsistent. I'm gonna give it a shot here. You can see, occasionally it'll work, and occasionally it'll boost me quite far. But then there's times, whoa, okay, like there, it's really inconsistent. Immediate D tier. Pneumaticraft also offers the pneumatic armor, and one of the main things you can get from this is the jet boots upgrade. Now you'll need a charging station, but what you can do is put them in the charging station and apply your upgrade like this. Then just, once it's finished charging, take it out. You can then equip your boots. And this is where Pneumaticraft gets a little bit confusing. I think you have to equip one of the helmets to get yourself started with this. And once you equip the helmet, you'll start initializing all of the crazy Pneumaticraft HUD Iron Man stuff. And once it's all set up, if you press U, you can activate the jet boots. Jet boots have an interesting power mechanic where you can up it. You can also add hover, and the way you fly is super cool. You just hold spacebar and you will sort of do this weird Superman kind of fly. Now again, we've only put the tier 1 upgrade, so this is quite goofy and quite slow. But you'll see it does also negate fall damage. Now if I swap out the upgrade with the tier 5 one, which is the maximum, as you can see, it's a crazy recipe requiring elytras, then the nether star, all of this stuff, and it does require those vortex cannons I showed earlier. And we're initializing again. But you get a lot more options. You get the builder mode, which allows you to climb vertically, flight stabilizers, which stops that drift I was talking about before with the quantum armor, and in the previous hover and smart hover options. Also note, you will go a lot faster. Check this out. That is a lot faster than we were showing off before. And it's really weird. It's like a vector-based one. So it's where your mouse is moving the way that you fly. Do note, you can just hit objects like this. It's the exact same as elytras. You'll take damage. Oh my gosh. You can also go underwater, and it is incredibly difficult to control sometimes. It also uses pressure. That little bit of flying that we did took us down to almost half. You can upgrade this, and you can get the, I believe it's the aerial interface, which allows a similar thing to this player transmitter. So I would actually say that this is a little bit of a contender for a B tier. Just the uniqueness alone, it's so cool, and check out the armor. Plus, the fact that you can actually start with a lower tier and upgrade similar to the iron jetpacks, I think that's a bonus as well. But if you're better than me at controlling, maybe the usability could go up, but I'm terrible. If you thought I was going to stop with the goofy ones, you've got another thing coming. The next one is productive bees. And you might be saying, what do you mean? There's no flight in productive bees? Yes, there is. Let me introduce you to the Bumblebee. This guy can be found in plains biomes, and you can put a saddle on him and, yeah, suffocate into mushrooms, apparently. If you hold in your hand a treat on a stick, which is just a fishing rod mixed with a honey treat, you can take him off on a jolly. He's nowhere near as quick as the Beehemoth that we showed earlier, but he can fly over water, which I think is kind of interesting. It's not flight in the sense that you can control it with space or WASD, but I mean, you don't take full damage and you can fly over long distances, so I guess this counts as flight. But unlike the Beehemoth, I don't think this little guy is going to be in the B tier anytime soon. He's trying his hardest though, look at him. Unfortunately, this one's a D tier, but it's cool. I guarantee you've never seen anyone use this. On the theme of obscure ones, we've now got Reliquary. Reliquary offers the Rending Gale. It's not early game by any means, requiring a charged creeper drop, bat wings, then a void tier, which requires a rare drop from Enderman and slime, and a ghast tier. So I don't know where I'd put this in terms of early game, probably somewhere around the middle, but it's fueled by the weirdest thing. It's fueled by feathers. If you shift right click whilst you've got some feathers in your inventory, it will suck them all up, and in the bottom right you'll see it says 64. Again, similar to the leap spell, you just right click and you'll zoom around as you go. Do note you will still take fall damage, exactly the same as leap spells, but similar to the leap spell, if you fly up in the air and then fly directly down, you won't take any damage. As if that wasn't fun or unique enough, you can shift and scroll and you'll get different modes. So for example, I'm now in the pull mode. I can now drag this little guy to us. Or push him away. That's the next mode as well. I don't think he's particularly happy with me doing this. Or shift scroll again and we get back to our flight mode. I don't think this is a particularly terrible option, considering charge creepers can kind of be made really simply by using the lightning rods now. The materials aren't too expensive, and I think you could get this within a few hours. And the fuel source of feathers is a bit of a wacky one, but I think it's not that hard to get a farm for chickens. I would say on the whole, this is actually a B tier. It's not creative flight, it's not early game, but you can get this a lot sooner than some of the other ones. I think B's a pretty fair place to put it, and a lot of you have probably never used this before. The next one is RFTools, and this is a bit of a strange one. I don't think this is fully working, so I feel a bit bad kind of reviewing this properly, but I thought I'd give it a go just in case they change things up in the future. You can give yourself creative flight by creating the environment controller. Now the environment controller is a placeable block, but as you can see, even the texture's a little bit balked on it. The environmental controller is a bit of a strange craft requiring, well, you know, block of diamond and some other crazy stuff. But on the whole, it's not too difficult. The meat and potatoes is this flight module that you can apply. This requires a lot of ghast tears, an infused ender pearl. In fact, requires a few infused ender pearls and infused diamonds, which requires these dimensional shards, a module template, and then a syringe. But it's not that tricky to get both of these things. You can then increase the height and the radius of how far this will affect people, and then give it some energy. So yeah, when I said this is a little bit strange, I've been playing around with the settings and finally got it to work when I pressed eject on the energy. I've never had to do that before, but I thought it was worth noting. And yeah, I can fly now. Yeah, it's a little bit funky, but it does seem to work. It's not exactly fun or unique, so I'm going to have to say this is a C tier. But hopefully that was one that you've probably missed as well. And last, but certainly not least, is my favourite in this whole entire pack. It's not even an S tier, but it's still my favourite. It's the balloon on a stick. It's a super simple recipe just requiring wool, a lead, and then a log. And when you place it down, you have a balloon on your back and you can fly creatively, but only whilst you're tethered to this stick, meaning that if you go out of the radius, the balloon pops and you fall off. It's meant for early game where you're going to be building a house or something. Hence why it's not an S tier, because it's not exactly a full creative flight solution, is it? But look how cool it is. I could build like this. I could build a house really easily here. No scaffolding, no nothing. I can get down as well. Still got the balloon on my back. It's my favorite. And then at the start of the video, I promised you that there was a method that you could get within literally a minute of playing. I'm going to show you a speedrun of me making a balloon on a stick. Here we go. So first we're going to have to chop a wood log. I'm going to try and speak, but I don't know whether it's going to happen. We're going to have to craft a crafting table. We're going to have to craft this into sticks and a plank. We're going to craft a knife really quickly like this. We're then going to break these, hope that we get some straw. And we're very close. We've got 5. Fantastic. We're going to craft this into a lead like that. We're then going to kill this guy here. And I think it's actually easier to do it with my hands instead. He's taking way too much damage and still somehow surviving. I don't know what mod's causing that. We're then going to combine that. We've got a balloon on a stick in literally less than a minute. Fantastic. That is creative flight technically in less than a minute. That's probably the most stressed I've been recording this video. But hey, I promised you creative flight, and look, I double tap space. I'm creative flighting. I'm creative flighting. I'm not even speaking English anymore, man. And the balloon on a stick is incredibly early game. Despite its usability flaws, it is fun, it's unique, and you can get it in literally less than a minute. I think it really just has to go in A tier. It's not S tier because it's not full creative flight, but it's incredible. It's so good. It's the best block. So I hope you enjoyed that. I think that is every single flight option in ATM 10. If there's something I've missed, please put it in the comment section and give it a score. And if you disagree with any of my scores, please put that in the comment section as well. I'm not the right person here. I want to hear your opinion. I value early game a lot more than I think a lot of other people do. And if there's any more funky ideas you want to see done, even like speedrunning balloon on a stick, let me know. And if there was a flight option that you hadn't considered yet, make sure to smash the like button below. And if you're new here, subscribe. I'll see you guys in another video.